usage is borderline as to whether it would be beneficial to go into a fixed price. The person I spoke to couldn't give me a definite answer, but is meant to be ringing back.
So the decision that needs to be made tonight is if it is cheaper to go into a fixed term contract, are you happy for the council to do that rather than stay on an unmetered deemed contract? Councillor Holloway.
Do you know what, I mean, it's a 37% increase, which seems an awful lot. But what, do you know how much this bill is, how much we pay for this unmetered electricity?
It varies as to whether it's a 4 or 5 week.
Just all the magnitude, really. Hundreds, thousands?
Hundreds. It varies from about £185 a month to about £205 a month.
So that's about £2.5 grand a year. It's gone up by about £800.
That is if we stay on the unmetered. That is if we stay on the unmetered contract.
Can you not just switch supplier?
Yeah.
There's lots of them out there.
No. When is this contract finished? 1st of May.
It's awkward, isn't it?
I'll make a decision. I mean, this was brought to the council really tonight because what Elon is saying is that if we went to a fixed contract, fixed term contract, we should be able to get it at a cheaper price, although Leslie can't be specific about that price. And so really she wanted us to decide tonight whether, if that is the case, that is what, can she have approval to do that?
The alternative is to stay on this contract, which is flexible, we can cancel it at any time. That's the
I don't know what the terms and conditions of it are.
I assume it's flexible if we're outside the initial.
Chairman, can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
I think that either the last meeting or the one before, I think it was you, Councillor Holloway, raised the issue
don't
about
blame me.
streetlight ownership.
Yeah.
I said that the central beds were likely to open up for again to take over streetlights from town and parish councils after the election. Now, you may or may not want to do that. Obviously, if you're on a fixed term contract, that would tie you into a lengthy handover.
It says here that there is no termination fee for a deemed contract, which is what we're currently on, and you can change supplier at any time. You don't need to give us any notice to end this contract.
I propose we defer it on.
That'll need to be revisited very shortly. Yeah, but for the time being, are you happy to stay on it?
Mr. Chair, as well as that, can we also get some prices for some other suppliers as well?
Yeah, that's a bit of
so
work.
we can compare Southern Electric, gas and everybody else.
We'll get the admin assistant to do some probing on that.
Thank you.
Okay.
On the account.
Right, so we're happy to delay that for another time, yes? Pending further information. Yeah, we'll bring it back in on the 19th of May. (11D) 1. To approve the financial assistance application for Mid Bedfordshire Citizens Advice Bureau to award a donation of £50 to support the outreach project as recommended by the GP and Finance Committee meeting of the 17th of March.
I'd like to propose that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor West. Anyone to second that? Councillor Flatten. D2 is to approve the financial assistance application for a member of Stockpole Twirlers to award a donation of £50 to cover some of the costs for competing in the European Championships in Slovenia as part of the England squad as recommended by the GP and Finance Committee meeting of the 17th of March.
I'd like to propose that, Mr. Chair.
Only £50 though.
Yeah, I'll second
Yeah.
that.
Okay. So that's Councillor Hayes, Councillor Frost. And I'll read out the third one. D3 is to further consider the financial assistance application from Arlesey Methodist Church, and I do believe you've been handed a sheet of paper supporting that. So I'll leave you to discuss that amongst yourselves.
Chair, due to the the services it provides within the community about allowing other people to use the facility, okay, I think we should actually give them the £1,000 that they're asking for.
I think we should support the Catholic Church in some way, because we do support St Peter's, but the amount, I think, needs council to agree with.
But we don't spend that much on some people, do we? The only time we gave 1,000 was when something, the neighbour was falling down. And we could just,
The roof was...
yeah. But normally, I think we just give them use of the hall free of charge, the quizzes and how much do we give them? I think it's perhaps we look at parity.
Well, we've only come to you once, and that was because of the buildings was, the roof was going, so we needed quite a lot of expense paid out from the council. So that's the only time we've really come. We do, come and ask for the hall to be free so we can make, money for the church, but other than that, we haven't actually come and asked. Obviously, the Methodists are trying to improve the facilities at the church, and I think as a council we should help them out, as because it is a facility for the people of Arlesey.
Mr Chair, I believe they rent the building from us to hold their once a year Christmas bazaar.
No, they don't anymore. They do it down at the Methodist
I apologise.
Church.
I apologise. They used to. I apologise.
They used to, but they don't anymore.
Have we got any money available to give them this 1,000?
I don't think we've got quite 1,000 left, no.
What's that?
Perhaps we're going to leave a note for the new council. Money's all gone.
900. Because it will come out last financial year because it came to council last year.
Well, I think it's a good cause, and I propose we give them 500.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I agree.
Is that your decision? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. 12 is the resource centre to receive a report from the working party. This is held by Councillor Frost and Councillor West on an exclusion policy.
We met in the library, we've met with Erin, and we've gone through the policy that Central Beds had given us, and we've sort of tweaked it to for the resource centre. We've all got copies. What do you think of the...
I'm sorry.
Councillor Horan.
So they've audited out. Is this a policy document?
This is a policies document. This was originally from Central Beds, that's what they use in their libraries, and we just sort of tweaked it so it's applicable to the resource centre.
Was this in our intrags or was this emailed to us?
No, this was in the retrade.
No,
in the
no.
retrade.
No, you need to give me some time to read it.
It was in, wasn't it in the agenda?
It wasn't
Oh,
in
right,
there.
yeah, we came through this afternoon, I apologise.
No, I'm not complaining, I'm just saying I need 5 minutes to read it.
Yeah, you might, okay, take a few minutes to have a look through it then, please.
I have been reading it. I've seen the original policy document that came through from Central Beds, and quite frankly, I think someone needs to phone Central Beds and ask them how to write policies, because it was appalling. The language it used, things like the straw that broke the camel's back, it was disgraceful. In all my working life, I have never seen a policy written in such a format. This, I believe, is rather a procedure rather than a policy. A policy is just a one-page statement that identifies what it is, and this is the procedure that you follow. So there is a difference between a policy and a procedure. I have had a quick look at this, and you have taken out some of the wording that I didn't particularly like. The one thing I'm not happy with, I don't like the use of the word banning. I think it should be excluded. I'm not happy with the word banning. It's a word that's not used frequently, and certainly in the services that I've worked in where we have had to exclude people, it has been exclusion as opposed to banning.
Yeah.
So I think that needs to be changed. Just on another point, did we not appoint a strategy group for the resource centre?
Yes.
Yes, you did.
Did we?
You did, yeah.
So who's on that strategy group?
Councillor West.
Carlos.
And who? Just two people?
No, that's a hollow view, right?
I think Councillor Baines and myself on it as well. There was
Right.
Four of
so-
us, wasn't there?
So, just as a point of question, why did two of you do this policy statement and not include the whole group?
I believe it was a volunteer who was asked to do it.
I
Yeah,
think
but who raised it in the beginning?
It raised at one of the meetings, wasn't it?
It must have been raised at a committee meeting, because I don't remember it coming up before.
Can't remember which one it was.
Mr Chair, I believe it came up because you raised an issue that had actually happened within sort of the resource centre, okay? And we had no policy, okay, they're available. I then phoned Central Beds and asked them for their policy on what happens inside their libraries, and I asked them to email it across to our acting clerk, okay? That then came back and it then came up to council, because I'd already spoken to Erin and went through it beforehand with Erin, and then it came and went back to me and Helen to go and have a look at.
Right, okay. When was the decision made to appoint Councillor Frost and
But the
Councillor?
point is, if something needs to be discussed about a resource centre and you have set up a strategy group to deal with that, why did just individual councillors go off and do something which should have been done under a working party with the strategy
Let me
group?
try and throw some light on that. At the GP and Finance Committee meeting of the 17th of March, it was resolved under the Arlesey Resource Centre 416 agenda item that Councillors West, Frost and the Resource Centre Manager form a working party to look at the exclusion policy and report back to the next Town Council meeting.
But those two people, councillors are on the strategy group, and they should have considered that perhaps it was an issue that should have been dealt with the whole group. What is the point of setting up a strategy group if you're not going to use it?
That might have been the case, Councillor Contrary, but I think on the night Councillor Baines wasn't here, so therefore they couldn't exactly say that he would be part of it if he wasn't here. And that's probably why they went ahead and did it themselves.
And I think
I don't know, I wasn't here myself, so I can't really answer that.
I think councillors need to be aware of what is a policy and what is a procedure, and this is why we could land ourselves into a whole load of trouble again if we don't get it right. This
Well,
is a procedure, it isn't a policy.
It is a
So
procedure, because
I
it states it is a
prefer-
procedure.
It does say it's a procedure.
but we need a
It's
policy.
just that we haven't got a policy or a procedure at present. So therefore, it is proposed that this is the procedure, and the policy can be decided upon at the strategy group.
I go back and I reiterate what I said last time.
Okay, Councillor Hayes, which is the person.
It's a knee-jerk reaction to an incident that happened a few weeks ago. You're rushing headlong into adopting a policy that's not fit for purpose. I think we've had half an hour to sit down and digest it. We need more time to look at it, and we need to come back with an honest opinion about it. I'm sorry, it's not fit for purpose.
Okay, so what do other councillors think?
Well, I'll reiterate what I said, and I don't think you were at the actual meeting.
No.
but you need to be very careful when you're recruiting managers that you actually take on a manager. You have a title there that says Resource Centre Manager, and you have a person in there who you need to look at see whether they're capable of writing policies, because the manager should be able to write a policy.
Okay, so what's the council decision on this then? Because this agenda item 12 is to receive a report. So basically, you've received a report. There's some concerns about the report. So is there going to be a decision made from the discussion?
Well, we haven't received the report on an exclusion policy. We
Well, okay.
received a report on an exclusion procedure.
Okay, so for that reason then it needs to be parked and looked at again.
Yes, it needs to be.
It needs to be done properly. You need to have a policy statement and a procedure to follow the policy.
Okay, so can we have a vote on that? Who agrees with Councillor O'Connor? Anyone
Mr. Chair,
second
before you
that?
call for a vote, can I point out just a couple of small points,
Yes.
please?
Can we just have the vote first, then you can make your points?
Okay.
So, just reiterate what you said, Councillor O'Connor, please.
I said you need to have a policy statement and a procedure that follows the policy.
Okay. Councillor Clapham seconded that. Anyone else agree with that? Right, that's unanimous. Councillor West, what comment do you wish to make?
Yeah, right. We have a notice in there that says that our computers are open to people from 8 years of age. And because we haven't got parental control locks on there, we could find ourselves liable if a child goes onto an inappropriate site, because the parents could take it against us, the council, because we've not put any. I've actually done some research out there, and you can get Panda for 5 years for £90 for 5 computers, which comes with parental control and also antiviral, anti-spam, and there's a lot of anti-stuff it comes with, and it's £90 for 5 years, or you can go to Panda Direct and it's £100 and odd for the same for 3 years for it's because it's part of this policy thing that we have no parental locks on the thing. Okay, so we need to get these parental locks in place on there so that people cannot access inappropriate sites in there to protect the children that use this particular facility.
Right, thank you, Councillor West. Councillor O'Connor.
Do you think perhaps we ought to visit some other libraries in other places to see how they operate and what they have in place? Because they must have the same problems. I mean, Arlesey can't just have its own set of different
I think
problems.
what we need to do is arrange with haste a meeting of the strategy group and the resource centre manager, and then they come and they devise the policy and then agree the procedure.
Mr. Chair.
And that needs to walk back to council, doesn't it? That's the way to go forward.
Mr. Chair, can I ask our ward councillor? I understand that Stotfold is still a library, okay, supported and run by Central Bedfordshire Council. Biggleswade and Shefford are all libraries run by Central Beds. What do you do in there to prevent people accessing sites that are inappropriate for public access?
Well, I've personally no idea as I'm not responsible for libraries, but I can ask the question. In fact, it could be sent and posed to Councillor Daldano, who does have that responsibility in his portfolio.
Will you let our acting clerk know as soon as possible, please?
So can we go down the route that I've outlined? Yeah, is that right? Okay.
So when would this strategy group like to meet?
I think put it on the agenda for the next meeting. It's not going to happen before the election, is it?
No, leave it till March.
Put it online. Yeah. Well, that's all right. As long as they've got the papers in advance, they can read out time.
Chairman, we move on to the
Yes.
next question. I was very concerned to hear your comments about this policy Councillor Ron received from CBC. So if that could be forwarded to me with the name of the officer who sent it, and then I can take that up with the portfolio holder. Because, like you, I don't believe we should have inappropriate language in any of the council policies.
I can assure you, it had the straw that broke
But
the
the camel's
camel's
back.
back.
Where is it?
Helen's got a copy of
That's the
it.
original one.
Oh, right, okay. Right, we'll move on from that anyway to agenda item 13, which is CCTV. 13A is to receive a quotation for 2 extra CCTV cameras in the resource centre. You should have that attached.
Yep. You have to remember to approve this.
No, I think we've already agreed this, haven't we? So,
Yes. I walked round with Harrison's and if you want to know a little bit more, one camera will go looking down on where the PCs are currently placed, which means PCs will have to stay there. It's a minor issue. If you move the PCs, then they won't be underutilized.
Got more cameras.
And then the other camera will be to the north, if you like, of the reception desk, so it will take in where the staff work.
Yeah.
And it will capture the door, but I think they're advising that that would be a little bit too far away if we needed to rely on the evidence. We would certainly good enough to see who it was coming in and stuff.
Okay. So have we agreed with them where the camera should go?
They're the two. They reckon we only need two, and we've got capacity for 3 more, I think, with a device.
So can we agree that quotation then, yeah?
Can I just ask a very quick
Councillor
question?
White, yeah.
Have we also got all the appropriate signage? I'm sure there's rules and regulations on how many
lots.
signs and where they should be.
What about CCTV cameras?
Yeah.
Well,
Did he say we needed any additional ones?
He didn't say we did. No, he didn't. I mean, there are cameras there anyway, aren't there?
On the outside, yeah, and we've got notices around the building about the CCTV.
Put some up on the inside and get them up.
Get last.
Okay. 13B, to receive a report from Councillor Holloway regarding accessing the CCTV
Oh, yes.
remotely.
Yeah, we've always had this apparently. There is an app that we can use to, there's a need to look at these cameras remotely if we want to.
Councillor West?
Right, before we start, I'm going to apologise. It's going to take about 10 minutes, so I'll apologise.
Can we be as brief as possible, Councillor West, please? Right.
I'm going to be as brief as possible. I don't believe this council has ever voted to give anybody a remote access. Okay, there is a Home Office Surveillance Cameras Code of Practice. It covers the Protection of Freedoms Act 2012, Section 30, Paragraph 1, the Data Protection Act 1998, the Investigatory Powers Act 2000, the UCOHR Article 8, the Human Rights Act 1998, the Private Investigators Act 2001.
I think we're convinced that we're...
Councillor West, can you make your point? I think you've made a point by listing all those...
Right,
all that
okay, anybody can object to their being, because it comes out of the data protection about being, and they need to have a legitimate reason why we are remotely accessing these cameras, okay, and also if there are children involved, there are different legislation as well, so there is a whole raft of legislation and we have to be very clear and precise on what we're doing and why we're doing it. So the remote access at this camera actually is quite a and then you also have to have a specific licence, and it's a criminal offence not to have the correct licence, and it is, get it right down here, it's an ICA Act licence, open bracket CCTV, and if you don't have it, you're actually committing a criminal offence.
So basically what you're saying is it shouldn't be accessed remotely.
I'm saying that 100%.
What licence? Read me the clause in the licence that says we can't access it now.
I'll do better than that, Mick. I'll give you all of the paperwork.
Read it out. Just answer the question. I don't need to have all the paperwork.
Right, where do I write it down?
Councillor Holloway, can I just ask a question while Councillor West is gathering all that together? I don't quite understand what the purpose of it will be.
Security. We've had things going this evening. We've had rather strong letters sent to staff and, well, to councillors. And I think it'd be a rather good idea if we had access to a camera. The thing's working on record anyway. I don't know, Councillor, this is your space. If we've got to line our ducks up, then we must do that.
I mean, what we have to do, I think, Councillor Holloway, as we discussed when we talked about ANPR and also using potentially public CCTV and access into Arlesey, which was the project you were looking at, is that we have to comply with the requirements of the Data Commissioner's Office. There is a code of conduct which was released and updated in 2014, and that's the document that the council needs to abide by. And it's available on the ICO website, ICO.
But if the council doesn't think we don't want to do it, then we won't do it. But I think it's a facility that's available. We're in complete control of what cameras we are able to access. So if there are any sensitive areas, then we turn those off and block those. Non-access is recorded. So we know exactly who looks at what, which is actually better than the situation we've got now. Then I can go in there and look at the cameras.
I think we need to be aware of
There you go.
of the conditions of this piece of legislation and the as to how it affects what we might or might not agree to.
We should take this step. I've looked into it, it's possible.
Well, no, the council needs to comply as a public body with the code of conduct. Anyway, so the CCTV it's already got,
Oh, I see.
regardless.
So this doesn't actually, we're not making it any worse. If we're
Not
not
making any
compliant,
worse
not
at all,
compliant.
but it would be good practice, in fact, to comply with the law to make sure that the code of conduct in its revised form.
Mr Chair, I'd like
Okay, Councillor West?
Chapter 4, page 16 of the code, okay, 4.56. Wherever surveillance camera covers public space, a system operator should be aware the statutory licence is required for Private Sector Security Act 2001. Under these requirements, a security industry authority is charged with licensing individuals' work in specific sectors. The private sector industry, a public spaces surveillance CCTV is required when operators are supplied underneath the contract of service. It is a criminal offence to staff to carry out any licensed activities without a CIA licence. And it's quite clear in the code of practice.
But we're not in America.
This is English law. This is English law.
Okay. Is it something that needs to be looked at more closely before we...
Can I table that motion?
Right, okay.
I'm happy to work with council when
Okay, well,
it's curious that now that we have the ability to provide more security to our staff, it seems to be problematic, but we will do things properly. And if we haven't been doing things properly, then thanks for bringing it to our attention, councillor.
that's correct.
Mr Chair, I'll tell you what I'll do.
Councillor West, we do need to do things properly, and your points have been taken on board, and that's why they're going to be looked at before any decision is made.
Okay, because there are two bodies that actually regulate it there. The Commissioner of Data Protect for the Data Protection is one of the bodies. So I suggest we get in contact with that department and see exactly what they come up with. And this ICA licence we need to acquire.
Right. Do you wish to work with Councillor Holloway on this?
If Mick wants to work with me, I'm willing to work with anybody.
Yes, a cup flows over.
I think that's the way forward.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so there we go. 14 is the monthly operational playground inspection report, of which you should have a copy from our client, Clements Play Management Limited.
Mr Chair, we keep getting the same thing over and over again about things that need to be done. We're now well and truly into the warmer weather, the spring. We've now had Easter. Some of these things by now should have actually been done, right? Because ever since, if you like, we've got a copy of the very first one that came out here. Because we're getting the same thing over and over and over again, saying that these things need to happen. I thought that was the whole idea of getting them on board, so we didn't keep getting the report saying, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. Right, let's get on and let's get it done and let's make it happen. I believe there was a tender put out to get the work done up at £14,000. So why is it not happening?
Okay, well, the clerk's got some further information on that, doesn't he?
I applied for the 106 money for the activity trail to be removed and the DDA equipment to be put in. That's waiting for approval by Central Bedfordshire. The train, I spoke to the contractor and he will paint it once the weather is warming. Still very cold at night and damp. The BMX track, the element that's been chewed by dogs or foxes, at the moment the groundsman can't do because the generator was stolen. I've just about got it cleared with the insurance company to replace the generator. Once that's been bought, then that can be done. They're always removing the graffiti, and groundsman is also going to replace the tabletop.
We have given Clemency